Welcome everybody to another episode of the Paisycord Podcast. Today, we've got a bit of a different podcast this week. Just the two of us this time. It's going to be me, your host, your ever-present host, Shnoork, running the podcast, keeping the lights on as you do. And joining me today, we have a very special guest. She used to help us run Paisycord. She was in charge of things for like 5 years, I think. We have Princess Crown.
Hi. Yeah. It was at least like it's definitely 5, 6, or 7. It was pretty close to that because
Who
it was
can
near
even keep
like the
track, right?
middle of it. Yeah, really. It's been a long while.
Been a
It was
while.
a long run.
Yeah, but no, but like I mean, you gotta like when it comes to anything like that, eventually, like you want to stop. Like you don't want to do that forever. It's not the indefinite type of thing you want to be involved in. As great as it can be, you know.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to like go on to more things because life just happens like that.
Yeah, no, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Like if you ask me, we've been doing the podcast for a while now, a few weeks now. I don't see it going forever. I enjoy doing it, and I like that other people enjoy being on the podcast with us and watching the podcast. But I mean, just like all things, it's got to come to an end eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
That being said, you and I, we were just having
Mhm.
tons of conversations before we even went live, which is usually like a podcast faux pas is like, oh, don't burn all your material before the camera's even rolling, right? But
Yeah, pretty much.
we were talking about you hosting tournaments.
Yeah. Currently right now, including today because Um, I host 2 tournaments a weekend because I have a full time job now. I run my tournament series that has been going on for about 3 years, if you don't count 2020 because of COVID-19. But I did run pretty much another tournament series called Dark Side Arena, but Suicide Odyssey has been running for about a solid 3 years now, and then um, I have a new one called Argentum Stock Trade. That's pretty much going to be what is my experimental stages weekly on Sundays.
Yeah, you were
So
telling me about the
Saturdays,
experimental stages stuff. I think that's really interesting. I think that's a really important field to like explore when it comes to Smash. Is like people are always debating about stage lists. You need to have this stage. We should just get rid of these stages, you know. But
yeah.
I feel like so little gets done in actually like forwarding that discussion. It's always just pointless arguments.
I mean, this is why you don't try to make an argument on Smash Twitter. You just don't do that.
Yeah,
Like
no, don't
that.
even.
That's the one thing for those people that are kind of new here. Don't ever try to argue something that like needs to be talked about on Smash Twitter. It's definitely not going to help at all. It is going to be basically talking to a bunch of brick walls. It's not going to help at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you were even saying like old stage lists, right? You mentioned like using Brawl stage list.
Yeah, so back in Brawl, that's when I originated from in the Brawl days. It was quite a few. There were a few stateless variants that kind of just went on, but the one that I remember the most of is was play PS1 with hazards on. These are all going to be hazards on, by the way.
Right,
So
because Brawl.
PS, yeah, PS1 Slashville Battlefield FD, of course. Frigate Orpheon, that was another one. Rainbow Cruise, believe it or not, Rainbow Cruise was actually a legal stage back
I
then as
remember that.
well. Pirate Ship was a legal stage as well, so Pirate Ship would be included. Yoshi's Island, and then for some weirdos out there who were in some few regions, I think mostly the Midwest, if I remember right. I think they had Mute City. I think it was either Mute City or what was the other one?
Big Blue.
Yeah, Big Blue. It had Big Blue as one of the legal stages. Which I never understood why that was the legal stage list in the first place, but it was for like. I mean, luckily it was a very short time. It only lasted maybe 3 or 4 months because we were like, yeah, this stage is kind of stupid. Let's not do that.
I do
But we
remember seeing clips with Mute City. I remember that.
Yeah, there are a couple of with Mute City for sure, especially after the Melee era. whenever Melee happened, it was like they saw another F-Zero stage and they're like, oh, let's try this one, see what happens. And then for a while people enjoyed it, but then it was like maybe we should try to keep it without the walk-offs.
Yeah, I mean,
But
that's definitely the thing is like these are fun stages. They're fun to play on, but when it comes to competitive environment, you usually want something a bit more neutral, a bit more fair as compared to, Big Blue, where when you touch the ground, you just shoot off the stage, or having
yeah.
the cars with uneven geometry.
Yeah, or even then, it's like it's not even just about the stages themselves. It's mostly like because here, let me explain. So here in Texas, at least in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where I am, a lot of the venue fees have gone up to $10. So that is the new normal is $10 venue fee. So a lot of people are like, okay, I don't want to pay $10 venue fee to just go 0-2 and I the tour right here.
Got a
Thank you.
grocery delivery.
Heck yeah. All right. But yeah. A lot of people are like, I don't want to pay $10 venue for going 0-2 at a tournament because I got janked out by a stage and stuff. So it's definitely one of the bigger risks of running an experimental stageless tournament because a lot of people won't come just simply because of that, and that in of itself is a huge issue in the Dallas Fort Worth match region. At least that is itself a huge issue because people talk about it all the time. But I have a good feeling that a lot of people are kind of looking for the reason to make $10 venue somewhat worth it. So I hope that the commodity of like bringing in weird stageless and stuff would probably bring in that reason. Like, hey, it's $10, but it's something that's like sticks out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely I would say gimmick because it's like, oh, look, we're doing this funny thing, but like it's a selling point.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, you have to make some kind of selling point. Like, you have to stand out from the rest in some way, shape, or form. And really, that's probably one of the better ones to do is just make something wacky out of it.
Yeah, I know in Toronto, at least when I was doing tournaments, $10 was pretty normal for entry fee, which is like totally fine. You just have a $10 bill, there you go, easy. But I have seen some at like 8. I think I've seen some at 15, but I want to say
Oh no, no,
15
no,
was like the
no, no, no,
original.
no. I don't mean like that. I mean like the $10 is the venue itself, but then you pay an extra five on top of it. So
Right,
we're talking like $15
right,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, no, okay, I get you. Um, I remember, yeah, no, I definitely remember very much cheaper venue fees than that.
Yeah, they definitely yeah. Oh, back before COVID happened, a lot of the venues were like $5 a piece and such. I think what happened over 2020 and why a lot of people are um, going towards the $10 venue is mostly just because of the fact that a lot of people just want to get paid, dude. A lot of people just want to get paid. It's that like the TOs are like us, the TOs ourselves. We just want to get paid in actual like sum of money. Like we don't want to just walk in and get like, okay, here's your $13. Have fun with that, and it's just like, okay, cool. Because like for me, it's fun to run a tournament, so I don't take the money too much for granted. But it's like when you have a stressful day and you're dealing with a lot of stuff that you really are just not prepared for, like some guy is just causing a lot of problems, or you run into someone who's brand new and he causes like some of the switches to malfunction because the pro controller got connected to a few of them. You definitely wouldn't want to get your money's worth out of it. And a lot of people just want to get paid, including the people in the background. So that's why a lot of the venues are charging $10 because not only do they want to pay the CEO, but they want to be able to pay production. They want to pay the people that are involved with the tournament their fair share as well.
Yeah.
I know at least with the Sunday venue that I have, they just want to get some extra money in there so that way in case something like another shutdown happens here in the United States, though those of you here in the United States probably know that probably isn't going to happen even if we want to do it because our government is fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's playing it
um,
safe though. I know that running a tournament, it's obviously a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into that. I feel like when it comes to people in the community, With the moment you start talking about like, oh, this is like talking about paying TOs, their knee-jerk reaction is what they should be doing it like out of the kindness of their own hearts, out of the passion for the game. But it's like, listen, these guys, they put in money, they put in time, they get setups, they're booking a venue, they're investing in like actual equipment so that they can stream just on the fly like that. A lot of money does go into doing tournaments, and on top of that, a lot of the money that you make as a tournament organizer, you can also reinvest that into your tournament, so you have a better tournament for the people who are paying you to host this tournament, right? I
Yeah.
know in my experience, EMG is one of the big guys for Canada. It's in Toronto, and they host locals, and they also host GOML, which is like the only major tournament in Canada, and people love GOML. Like, there are so many top players who are like, oh, dude, GOML is the one of the best tournaments I go to. Like, I love GOML.
Yeah.
It's really fun time. Uh, Especially because we also have a lot of like good talent in Toronto and especially in Montreal. Those are like our two big cities, I think, in Canada. So it's an opportunity to show off our Canadian talent as well. And all of that gets funded by the local tournaments that we host. You know, when COVID hit and everyone started canceling their majors, that was when people started realizing, oh, these people are putting like tens of thousands of dollars into making a major event happen, and now that like they've had to cancel it, they've just lost it all, you know. And
Yeah, and it really can shut down a lot of businesses. Like I know a couple of Smash businesses that were here the year prior because they had to cancel their event. They just had to bankrupt themselves
yeah,
because that was like their one source of revenue they got to. And then even here locally, recently I had to spend a ton of money just to get my first local running. If you take a guess how much I spent the first week alone for my tournament, if you have you can get three guesses. I'll
twelve
give you
hundred.
three choices.
I'm gonna say $1,200.
Okay, okay, not that much, not that
Not
much.
that much. I would think that's what I would imagine, right?
For a local, no, it doesn't need to be that
I'm gonna say 450.
close. Close.
I say 450 because that was how much I spent on buying Sony Vegas so that I could edit stuff for this podcast. But it was also like a selfish purchase because it's like I'm used to Premiere, right? Adobe, but you
Yeah,
have to pay for that every month. But Sony Vegas is a one-time purchase, so I said I don't have Premiere because you know your boy is not paying for Premiere every month or every year for 300 some odd dollars. So I just said I'm just going to go all in and get Vegas, and then I just have it for life because it's a one-time
yeah,
purchase. So you said 450 was close.
it
Over or
was
under?
close. Under.
Under. Did you have to buy like switches?
I actually did, which I got very lucky on because the venue actually provided some switches for me.
And I'm guessing they're monitors and some stream equipment. Uh,
Monitors, I actually didn't have to get either because
oh,
I'm very lucky on that either. Though I did have to get my own. I did have to get my own.
I mean, the more you talk, the more I'm thinking, how is 450 close? You know, I guess if 450 is close, I'll say four. Say 400.
375.
375.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Because
sound
that
too bad.
include that's some equipment that I had to buy a storage protector for power strip, extension cords, $100 pop bonus, a monitor for the stream setup, and then I had to pay a little extra to the venue if like say something didn't happen that day, I would have to pay toward a little towards the venue. So I had to spend about 375 for the first time,
Yeah.
but this week we're hoping we can get a little more.
Yeah, I mean, as you go, as you establish your tournament, obviously you're going to start to get more participation.
Yeah, because I know for like Odyssey and such, it definitely didn't grow over time. Like Odyssey started with about, I think, 16, 17, close to about maybe 25, 30 people. So it didn't have like a lot to go with, but it soon started getting up there after about it took a couple. It took like about a year or so before it finally popped off. So I think that's something for a lot of TOs to know about. Is like your tournament's not going to pop off initially unless you're just like a you're hungry bots and you can just do whatever the fuck you want, and everybody will show up to it. Two, you're a top player in the region, and everybody's gonna show up to it. You're like, oh, this person's got clout, I'm gonna go to it. Or C, you're just that influential in the community you are in to where people will show up for your sake.
Yeah, I think being established in the community is probably the biggest thing that goes into your own participation, right?
Yeah, that's what's gonna bring a lot of people out because it's like I know for me, before I started my own Sunday tournament, I was helping another tournament, and a lot of people only came out to the tournament because they saw me as a TO. They were like, you know what, we think this tournament's gonna go bad, but you're the TO, so we don't mind coming out to it. That first tournament was actually one of the shittiest first tournaments I have ever helped run in my entire life. It was horrible. Definitely the worst tournament experience I think I have ever had.
Well, how so? What makes that rough?
So let's start with the bases. We're talking about Texas heat and there's no AC in the venue. So that's already a terrible start. We're talking about I don't know if you know what you mostly read Celsius, right? With
Yep.
Celsius and Fahrenheit. Yeah. So let me tell
I
you
know a
in
general
Celsius.
like a general comparison, like 80 degrees, that's like 30.
Okay, so we're talking about 39 degrees Celsius weather
Yeah.
and no AC in the venue with a bunch of hot monitors because it's a gaming venue. They got they got a commercial fryer in the back because they make their own food. And then that some of the setups were not even compatible. They didn't even have the right update. Some of them didn't even have the right update. Some of them were missing their actual adapters. And then in the end of the tournament, there was only one setup left to run the whole tournament, and it was only a one adapter for the stream setup. And then they wanted to make all the top eight best of five and
Oh,
stream all of top eight, which was
yeah.
like in the end, the top four ended like, yeah, screw this. We're gonna split the pie. We're just gonna leave.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain. Having lack of setups is, I feel like that's just going to make any tournament drag on. But then also like lack of AC. If you can get fans in there and just start, as long as you can like circulate that air, you can make the best of a bad situation when it comes to the heat. But it's
Yeah,
still no
at least
replacement for AC.
yeah, at least with fans it makes it a little better. But like you're still talking about the Texas weather with no AC. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. If you don't have an AC or at least a fan in the Texas hot weather, I don't blame anybody for just wanting to leave. They probably would not have stayed.
We had a heat wave here. I guess like beginning of the season, beginning of the summer. So
I know there's a lot of people in the
probably
north did,
May.
especially like the northwest and the northeast.
Yeah, I know. So like we had a heat wave beginning of the summer, and the couple of weeks leading up to it, I was noticing, oh, it's weird we don't have the air conditioning on. It wasn't until the heat wave that we learned, oh, our air conditioning is just broken. We got to replace it. So for like a good week or two, we had weather that was between 30 and 40 degrees Celsius, uh,
Mhm.
just baking in the sun, no air conditioning. I have a window right here, which lets in all the heat. So my room was a sweatbox. I had a fan that I had going. And I would also retreat to the basement where it was nice and cool underground.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, that was not fun. It was sweaty and sticky.
See, here in the U.S., it was a little worse because in the Northwest Pacific and then in the Northeast, most of the people there don't even have ACs. So we actually had as much people die from heat wave this year as we had during the power grid failure that happened here in Texas back in 2021 in February. I know experiencing that firsthand, it was one of the wildest things I've ever seen in my whole life, and I never thought I would even experience something like that.
What, like loudest like the hail?
No, no, no. I mean, like I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's heard at this point the Texas power grid failure that
Yeah.
happened in February of this year. I mean, being here in Texas, I got to experience it full hand. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I got very lucky that I did not lose power. I did not have my pipes burst, and then everything else was okay. Like I was honestly shocked that I got that lucky from it because a lot of people around me, their pipes burst. Work had to completely shut down, etc. etc. It's just it was an absolute natural disaster. It's just like nobody could do anything. And then even for me, I couldn't even get out my car and try to go ride through the parking lot because it was already slipping. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not risking that now. Screw this. And and a lot of people who don't know, negative temperatures in Texas, that doesn't exist. That does not exist. So when you're talking about negative 15 degrees in Texas, it's like one of the worst things to ever happen because literally nobody knew what to do and everybody just kind of was stuck. And even our own government just tried to run away
Yeah.
from this whole situation. It
Ted
was one of the
Cruz decided it was a great time for vacation.
yeah, it was a whole debacle. It was one of the great failures of the 21st century for sure.
I know
It was a
in
disaster.
I know in Canada, sometimes we also get like, you get a power out any time of year, including the winter. But when it happens in the winter, uh, they always have to tell people don't barbecue indoors or anything because you will die. There's carbon monoxide. Don't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's all sorts of different risks that you might not really consider if you aren't like already versed in that kind of thing. Like if you're not already aware of it. So
hmm
I can imagine it would be particularly rough in Texas where you don't see snow.
You really don't. No, and a lot of people actually did exactly what you said not to do.
Yeah.
And it was so, I think the funniest part was all the conspiracy theorists that were like going crazy
Dude,
about it.
as a Canadian, looking looking from outside looking in, seeing people on Twitter from Texas who are like, "Look at this snow. This is fake snow." I'm sitting here like, "You've never seen snow in your life. What are you talking about?" Like having people in Texas try to tell me how snow works, it was hilarious.
It
I
was one
was
of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's just like, these guys, they liberals trying to throw snow in my parking lot. They're trying to make something happen out of that. They're just trying to make fake snow. They're trying to keep the American government from trying to make work. I'm like, what are you talking
Look, I put the
about?
lighter to the snowball and it doesn't melt. It just goes black. It burns. What is this? It's like, that's butane. What are you talking about?
It's just like I don't know what to say. When it was America is just its own world for the best and the worst reasons all combined. Just knows that it is has some good things, but then it has a lot of bad.
Yeah, I feel like the illustration of Americans like in the international community is like you have not very good social structures, but then the people in America are like super boisterous and like they love to brag about all of their not great things. So it'll be like,
Yeah,
look at us, we have freedom and we have all this great stuff. But then it's like, okay, well, your public education is terrible. You have some of the lowest education rates
wages.
in the world, lowest wages. You have
We don't
terrible
get any. We don't get any vacation times. There is
yeah,
out
like
of any.
terrible employee benefits like that that are
There,
just like
and
mandated at the governmental level. You have like terrible health care, and the Americans are always like, "Fuck
our
yeah,
healthcare is
America!"
our healthcare is the worst in the entire world. And then literally like everybody's like, oh, we're fine paying. Oh, like, oh yeah, it's America. We're fully fine paying like $30,000 for literally just like going to the hospital because you broke your freaking leg. I'm like, why are you okay with that? It's like, and then the cost of insulin. The insulin crisis is one of the worst things in America because insulin, as far as I know, if I remember correctly, in Mexico, it's like about 20, $30. Here in America, I noticed because my mom actually had to get insulin a couple of times. It cost her $2,182 every 2 weeks.
Hmm.
So imagine that for a whole month. That's about 4,000, almost $5,000 every month for insulin. It was absolutely crazy. And
Yeah,
of
no,
course,
it's
nowadays you just can't afford medicine anymore. And then it's like, and then as you were mentioning earlier with the employment benefits, it's like here I am at work. I work a 40-hour a week job. I only got 5 days of vacation days. And now that I've used them, I don't have any more vacation days until next year.
yeah.
And there and then even then it's like you have to work a full year to even get 10. And it's like, why do people have to work this hard just to get something that should be getting benefited to them, you know? I can use this time to be going out to Smash service for fuck's sake. I just want to go play. I just want to play Smash for you. I miss Smash. I really do miss playing Smash. It's just it's so hard to, well, especially when you TO your own tournament. It's so hard to not feel that I want to play my own tournament, but I have to be a responsible person and I should run the tournament.
Yeah, I gotta keep the lights on. Oh man, sucks being
Yeah.
an adult.
Oh, in America especially, it sucks. It sucks.
I've liked like watching documentaries in the past where it's like they'll compare different social structures in different countries and how it's like, oh, you look in Europe, they get like there are some careers in Europe you get summers off,
Yeah,
and
I know
it
that
just
in
blows your mind.
it. Yeah, it's in Sweden and I think Finland, if I remember correctly, you get the entire summer off, or at least it's about 6 weeks off. They go on break from the whole entire month of June and I think July as well. And then in America, we're literally the only country in the world that doesn't provide parental leave, which is kind of crazy.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's a crazy world out there.
Crazy, crazy. Yeah, I just want to play Smash again too because it's like on the weekends is like the only time I have free anymore. But it's like I want to run Smash tournaments here. I just want to run tournaments. And I want to make extra money off of it. And while it's worked, it also has taken away like the time that I have to play Smash at all. And it's like I don't play Smash anymore because it's just like I don't have time to do it. I just don't have time to do it.
I know for me, in my experience, I was enjoying Smash for a while, but then once at like the pandemic hit, it kind of just took away all of my like motivation, and I just started doing other things. There's nothing wrong with that, but I haven't really been playing too much Smash. But lately, I've been using work to leverage that into playing Smash, where like I'll play on the bus and I'll play on break or something, and just having fun with Smash. Smash is a fun game.
Yeah, once you like actually like realize that Smash is not supposed to be something you should put your full emotional swing into, you kind of just enjoy it a lot better. As far as I've learned over the years.
Oh, absolutely. I know that see a lot of people who just like it hurts them. They hurt themselves so much, just like the way that they think about this game. And they're so obsessed with it.
I mean I still do the same thing too, and that's like I still do that to this day, but I've gotten so much better about it because it's like fun fact in Smash 4, I actually broke 7 whole GameCube controllers
Right.
throughout the lifespan of it. It was I used to be really bad back then. And I still kind of am. I still get very salty about stuff and etc. But like when you take the time off and you like make it as like something on the side rather than something you're fully dependent on as like your like way to get out of things, you tend to enjoy it a lot. I think the best person to kind of describe that is Krebs. It's like when Krebs told me of like I mean, the same old, same old. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just like have different things going on because if you don't have different things going on, then you're just going to lose all of your enjoyment slash completely.
I think one of the big things that I've learned about anything that you're doing really, I learned it from watching Dark Souls videos, watching Zero Lenny, because if you don't know who he is, he plays Dark Souls, and his whole shtick is he'll do it with a broken sword. So like he's doing no damage the entire game, uh, And his whole shtick is when he comes up on like a really really hard boss that kills him like 80 times, he'll do like a montage where it's like him dying and there's inspirational quotes and stuff. And one of the big things that really got me there is like you have to think about why you're doing something. So it's like, are you doing this for the reward? Are you doing this for the payoff? Or are you doing this because you see value in it? You know? And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that really stuck with me, especially like even just talking about what I do on Discord and the Paisycord. What I do there is I've always done it because I've seen value in it. So like I'm doing this podcast because I think that's a really cool thing to do. I think that's really cool to have in the community. You know, I think it really it adds some color. It adds some flair for us. Even before I was a moderator, I would put all this effort into organizing resources and adding to that. After I got mod, I actually like completely reorganized it and I like gave us separate channels. But even before then, it was like there were things that I was doing there because I was like, well, this is something that's good for everybody, so I want to do that, and I've enjoyed it because of that. So like, yeah, no, it's definitely it's not a matter of thinking like, what am I going to get out of this? It's what am I going to provide out of this? You know, it's like it pays to recontextualize why you do things, I think.
Yeah. It really does make a huge difference when you're like when the value of what you seek in something you do goes from, oh, I just want to have fun in it, to like, I want to be the best
Yeah.
thing
It's like
ever.
I need to hit this, and this milestone, and if I'm not hitting those milestones, I'm failing, you know?
Yeah, and that's really what drives you away from that's what drives you away the most. It's like if you're not doing well and you're not like feeling too great about what you do, it's always good to sit back and think about why you do it in the first place, because like it's okay to be like, okay, why am I doing this in the first place? Because it's always good to question yourself when you're like in down deep. It's like, people are like, oh, don't. I hate how the whole ordeal of like people trying to stand proud for stuff and tell other people you shouldn't be ashamed of like what you do and stuff like that. There's one there it's you. Okay, let me put it this way. It's okay to be ashamed of yourself when you realize what you do is hurting yourself more than it is actually helping,
Right.
because that is something of self-realization. That's not the like disappointment of, oh, I'm a failure, I'm so stupid. That's more the like, why am I doing this to myself, and why am I putting myself in these situations so much? Because it's like, that's the one thing I tell a lot of people with mentality issues. It's like, if you feel like you always have to prove a point to someone, then don't play it, because once you feel like you have to start proving your worth, you're never going to have fun, because you're always just going to disappoint yourself on any day that like you don't do well. And if you feel like you have to do it, then you're never going to. But unfortunately, I also blame the Smash Twitter. I also blame Smash Twitter really hard for this kind of thing, because I think Smash Twitter is definitely where all of these feelings and these thoughts provoking stuff come from. Because I mean, as we kind of seen throughout the Smash community all these years, the better you are at the game, the more, I guess, what do they call it? Clout you get, the more
Yeah.
popularity you get out of being good at the game, and the more privilege you get. So a lot of people see this and they're like, man, I want to get that too. And they're like, okay, well, I want to strive to get that. It's a good thing to strive for it, but it's not because they want to, because they feel good at the game. It's because they want to feel like they're on top of the world, like the person that is there for them. The even worst part is when Smash Twitter is always just dunking on people, or just like shitting on people that are like less than. I think that also creates a huge worse mindset of like that, because they're like, oh, if you're not good at the game, you're not worth anything. And unfortunately, people like to pretend that it doesn't exist, but it definitely is there. There are plenty of stories I've heard about people saying, I don't know if I want to go to my tournament anymore because I feel like no one wants to talk to me because I'm not good at the game. And while that may not be true in every scene at all, there are definitely some good scenes out there. There are definitely a few instances to where that could happen in a couple of scenes as well. And it's definitely just something of the elitism that like stretches out in Smash, or literally on Smash Twitter as well. Um, it doesn't help when on Smash Twitter the kind of joking matter of like shitting on people who go 0 and 2, 1 and 2, etc. like that. That doesn't help either because then that creates this whole situation of like, oh well, if I'm one of these people, then that means I'm worthless. I'm completely fucking useless in this community, which again is not true at all. But unfortunately, some of these people do not know better, or they're emotionally driven by fashion. And they see this, and it's like, oh, well, then I guess that must be true. And it does not help when this whole shameful attitude that these people bring about dunking on 1 and 2 and 0 and 2 players, when you have people like Mars and his stupid ass tweeted out about, oh, I deserve this. I deserve to be there more than I do the 0 and 2 or these two people that don't deserve shit. It's one thing to, I understand the thought of like, hey, I'm the better player, I deserve to be there because yeah, that is what brings in the ratings. But let's stop bringing down these people that are just trying to have fun with the game and learn better because all we're doing is just throwing the average Smash community out to the side for rot because that's one of my biggest frustrations I have. Is like I think everybody deserves a chance. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have done in your past. As long, I mean, okay, the stuff in the past depends on what you have done in the past. If you've done something really, really shitty, then I'm not gonna give you a chance. You're just kind of a shitty person. But I mean, like back then, it's like, oh, you used to be a big rager, like me. Like you used to be a really big rager, but now you calmed down, you've seen better, and you've changed a lot. Then I like to give people chances, and then especially the newer people, because a lot of the newer people nowadays, they just want to play the game, but they have no idea about like what happens in the community or like who runs it or like what happens. I want to be that kind of person that just like lets people like in without with open arms and not feel like they don't belong just because they're like, oh well, you go 0 and 2, you go 1 2. I don't know who you are. Like I've gotten to know a lot of people back in the past. Like one of my formerly sponsored players, Maple. He's actually a very good tune. He's actually a good young league mate here in the DFW area. I remember watching this kid come into my tournament, and he would always go 0-2, 1-2, blah blah blah. Nowadays, he's actually literally competing with the likes of like a lot of these PR players and all these top 30 people here in the region. It's like a lot of things just it's just things change all the time that like you don't know of like what's gonna happen in the future. So treating these people like shit now is just going to not only make a worse look for the Smash community as a whole, but then you're gonna like but then it's like you're also keeping the people who are outside of the Smash community away too because they see this from these people who have these terrible experiences, and they're like, oh well, if my friend had this experience, then I guess that must mean everybody else is like that. And even though it's not true, what else do they want to do? They're not gonna go research it into it. They're gonna believe their friend. That's kind of the reason why with all the stuff that happened last year, that's why a lot of people don't want to. That's why a lot of the people see with the stereotyping with Smash players. Like it's a horrible stereotype for sure because it actually involves a crime. That's not a good stereotype to have. But again, when you have people just assuming these things, they're not going to go look. They're not going to do their own research. They just see what everything's exploded, and that's what they're just going to assume. And it's unfortunate that this happens, but that's what's going to happen nowadays. You have to make a good first impression. If you don't make a good first impression, you're not going to get anything back out of it. You're just really not.
I like how we've talked about two different phenomenon that are like two sides of the same coin. You have the people who are really frustrated with themselves because they kind of put way too much into what they think of themselves in Smash. And then
Mm-hmm.
also the people who shit on the people who are bad at Smash and they're like, oh, these O2ers, because I feel like that's the same person. I feel like it's the two sides of this one toxic mindset of like putting all of this value in your skill at this game and your performance in this game, And to validate your own feelings, you have to shit on someone else who's worse than you, because that's, I guess maybe that comes from the fact that it's a competitive game where it's like one person wins, one person loses, and so you create this dichotomy of like, this person's a loser, I'm a winner, therefore I'm gonna shit on this loser, uh, and then that's why you have such a negative experience on Smash Twitter, is because you have so many people who see themselves as good, trying to protect their own self-image that they have built up in their mind, and they do that by trash talking the O2ers and such. Meanwhile, these
Yeah.
people who are O2ers are, you don't know what they're going to do in the future. You don't know if they're going to be the next Maple who goes O2 one year and then the next year playing with like PGR players. I've been seeing Maple pop off on Twitter. Maple's pretty sick.
Yeah. He's my boy for a reason. I want to sponsor the kid again because he's a pretty good kid and he comes to my tournaments at whenever he can. Um, but on the whole thing of like the community, I feel like with the Smash Twitter, it's what creates this whole thing of people taking the game a little too emotionally. I think it creates that type of environment because a lot of people like me who have a lot of mental issues with like say like just anxiety, depression. The whole idea of seeing these people on Twitter just shitting on people who go 0 and 2, 1 and 2, 2 and 2, it doesn't matter. And then realizing you're one of those people, even if it's not specified towards you, it creates this whole mindset of like, now I have to prove these people wrong, which, like I said earlier, if you feel like anytime you have to prove something, you're no longer going to have fun with the game, and now you're going to have a shitty experience. And it does not help when all the players that are like shitting on top of these people are usually better players. Like they're all like PR'd in their region, they're PGR players. Like it doesn't help. And as you were kind of saying too, with like all the people who may not be good, but they're still participating in it, the Smash Party is the biggest gaming community, at least the fighting community, in the entirety. So you have a huge audience and probably the youngest audience of anybody.
Most likely.
So you have a lot of these kids that are very impressionable. You're like this person that these kids are looking up to and being like, I want to be like this person. So when they see these types of actions, where like say like the Mars Twitter, when he says that type of thing, these kids don't know any better, and they're like, "Oh, that must be cool because a lot of other people are doing it. I'm gonna do it too." So it becomes normalized in their brain, and it just becomes something that carries and carries and carries, and that's why I hate this cycle because it's just like I tell anybody who's new at Smash, if you are new at Smash, either A, don't have a Twitter at all, or B, do not ever follow Smash because it will break you mentally always. Because literally, I'm not gonna lie, for Brawl and Smash 4, I had a lot of fun until I started getting involved a lot more in social media. Once I got involved a lot in social media and I started seeing the horrific side of how people thought, it ruined everything about how I thought with Smash. And it can definitely be a serious like changer to a lot of people too. Like some people, like yes, there are good things that happen on software. Like oh, it created a lot of people's careers and such. But in the way that I see of like growth and being able to learn, I'd say if you're someone who has a lot of anxiety, depression, I would highly recommend avoiding Smash media at all costs, or even social media altogether, because it's just something that will always drag you down. Because if there's one thing that again with Smash community for a lot of us that are veterans of the game, Smash community, Smash Twitter is never impressed. They will never be proud of what you do. They will always try to shit on you no matter what you do. So it's better to really just not interact with at all and keep the friends who. And if you do have Twitter and you have friends that are close to the Smash community, keep those friends closer. Don't ever really take the high route for the general populace of the Smash community. And I'm just saying this for Smash Twitter because Smash Twitter and Smash Locals are completely different. Like Smash Locals, it's cool. It's epic. I'm telling you, it's one of the best things you can do. If you want to go to a Smash tournament, don't do it online. Don't go to social media unless you're trying to find tournaments. Look up your local scene, go to a Smash tournament, and have fun there. It's
Yeah,
always
no,
the better way
absolutely.
to have fun in person. Always.
I will say I do like Smash Twitter myself, because I do like being able to follow people like, Yanni. You look at Yanni, he's the big Steve kid, right? And he puts out all kinds of cool clips, and he like shares combos, and he shares all this stuff. But at the same
Mhm.
time, you do see that kid gets a lot of harassment, and so I don't know. I feel like there is a way to casually enjoy Smash Twitter, but definitely not worth getting invested in.
I feel like at this point it'd be better to like follow all the smaller ones. Like all of your closer friends in the local scene is probably the
Yeah,
better way to go about
that's a
it.
good one too. I do like following like a lot of top players. Like I follow Riddles. Riddles, he's a good kid. You know, talking
I mean,
about
Riddles is also local to you, so
yeah,
it's
but
like
Riddles
it's
is also
it. It
local.
makes sense.
Yeah, but then there's also people like MK Leo and even like Void. Void, he's a pretty cool guy on Twitter.
Yeah, Void's
Esam,
pretty cool.
Esam, and Void both do like chess tournaments. Sometimes they'll just start tweeting like, "Oh, I did great at this tournament. I beat these three people." You're like, "Who the hell are those people?" Oh, he's playing chess, and yeah, it's
Uh,
it's a funny little thing. And no, there's definitely you can definitely engage with this. I wouldn't even, you know what? Engage is the wrong word. You can observe this without engaging, and it can be good. Like it can work for you. But I think it's a big part of it is like you got to think about the people that you follow. You got to think about the people that you want to interact with and the people that you want to you listen to. Because you need to find the people who are like they have a good mindset about it. Like you look at
for
people
sure.
like Kiarash. That guy's super toxic a lot of the time, and he's probably not worth following. Even though like sometimes he'll say something and he'll like say something like, "Oh, you know what? That was kind of down to earth. That was pretty grounded." A lot of the other time he's not saying that, so it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, put a lot of weight into this guy on Twitter.
There's one person who I always say to strive for in terms of mentality, and you probably know this person because they're from Canada too, and it's Locust.
Yeah, Locus.
Loca, if you want to see what the greatest Smash mentality of all time looks like, look up any Locust Smash 4 videos. This dude is literally getting comboed to death, and he's just like, that was sick. That was fucking sick. And I'm like, if that were me, I would be mad. I would be so mad. But Locust just has a big smile on his face and he's complimenting for us. I'm like, that's the kind of mentality I want to strive to have. Just someone who literally can like get janked out super hard and lose an entire set because of it. But in the end have a smile on their face and be like, dude, that was cool. That was sick. Like that is like the mentality everybody should strive to. That is just crazy.
I think a big part of that is kind of learning how to be more humble, and don't expect so much of yourself. So, like, if you're Locus, you're a high level player. You expect to like, be taking these W's. You expect to be like performing when you go to compete. But it's obviously he's the kind of guy who's also like, yo, real recognize real. That was good. If you're beating me and I'm good, then I'm okay with that because that means you're good too. I think a lot of
Eh,
people have a problem with losing to people who they perceive are worse than them, but that's largely because they don't have an accurate perception of their own skill. Like I see that complaint all the time. It's like, why am I always losing to people who are worse than me? It's like, well, because you're probably pretty bad at the game too. Honestly, like, just kind of have to admit that to yourself.
yeah, it's one of those like I guess what do they call it? Hard to swallow pills that they call it. It's one of those things that like you kind of have to learn and realize like stuff happens. Like you don't have full control over everything. If you did, then you probably would be MKLAO right now.
Yeah.
But we all don't have the power of what we can do. Like we only can like do so much as we have time to do. And if we don't have the time to do it, you have to use it wisely.
Well, with that being said, I think that's a good note to end the podcast on. Talking about healthy mindsets, steer away from those toxic people, and try yourself to emulate that healthy mindset as best you can. Try to be a local locus, do your best, and appreciate the people around you. not everybody is there to bring you down. You can
Yeah.
also, in bringing other people up, you can bring yourself up too. So, with that
Yep.
being
And
said, I think that's our podcast for the day. We've been going for a little under an hour. I was a bit hesitant to like push this one because there's only the two of us this time, and I was like, oh, I
yeah.
don't know, can just me and Crown like carry this podcast? But I think we've done a good job of it. I think it's doing a
Oh,
two-person podcast, like very
I could carry a
conversational.
conversation. I
Yeah.
could carry a conversation for quite some time. I guess for me, before we go, if you want to follow me, Crown Aegis on Twitter. If you want to follow my tournament series, it's at Odyssey_Smash. I will be hosting Odyssey tonight for those of you in the Dallas Fort Worth area. If you guys want to come by, every Saturday, 7 p.m. for singles. And just come through twitch.tv/tourney locator, always on that one. You know what's funny? Yanni is actually coming tonight as well.
Oh, that's
Because
cool.
he is actually Dallas. He is Dallas Fort Worth player. He is actually in this area.
Well, that's great. Glad to hear it. Yeah, no, everybody definitely follow up Crown. We've got socials, and at the end of the stream, you'll be able to see it all there. But with that being said, that's going to be it for us today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Take care.